I'm a hair mineral analysis expert. I have a background in functional medicine, and I educate people using HTMA testing to maximize health, erase debilitating symptoms, and gain energy. I'm a multi-time kettlebell sport world champion, and I'm constantly searching for high-performance pros from all over the world to bring you this human optimization podcast. My name is Lisa Pitel-Killah. Welcome, everybody, to a brand new episode of the Human Optimization Podcast. And I'm so excited to have here with us today Dr. Tenesha Wards. She is the founder of Infinity Wellness Center in Austin, Texas. She specializes in finding and correcting the core root cause of conditions like fatigue, chronic pain, fibromyalgia, and other medical mysteries. And we are going to be diving into one of those today. So welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
This is going to be wonderful. And I want to start off because, a lot of people don't realize that there is something called functional medicine. And they may, maybe they peruse over it on the web, or maybe they're seeing it, in print somewhere. But what is the meaning of it? Because I think a lot of people have a misconception about what it actually means.
Yeah, so it's become a trendy word in the last couple of years, which is good because that means awareness is becoming larger. So the purpose of functional medicine, and also maybe I should note that it's been called holistic medicine in the past, or alternative medicine. Really, I think functional medicine is the best term because it's the practitioner's focuses on figuring out what's causing your body to not function at its most optimal. So we're trying to figure out what can we do to make it function better. And that could be lab testing, diet, lifestyle change, supplementation, whatever it is. But functional medicine is really going in and uncovering what it is the body needs or has too much of. It could be something that they need a detox from, or an infection we need to clear out of the system to get your body functioning at its most optimal, versus, oh, you have a symptom, here's something that will cover that up or numb that. The symptom may go away, but the problem is still there. So the body will express in dysfunction some other place.
Right. And sometimes people have symptoms, and that's not always the root cause. That's not where it's coming from, right?
Absolutely. The body does a really, really good job of everything's about bringing you back into homeostasis, right? Like we got to keep you upright. So, oftentimes a low thyroid is really just a symptom of overworked and overstressed adrenal glands. But everybody hones in on hypothyroidism, but really hypothyroidism could be a symptom of something else. It could be a symptom of autoimmunity. So absolutely.
Yeah, for sure. And one of the ones we decided to dive into today, because I think it's so relevant in our day and time that we're living in, and that's chronic fatigue. And so, I know probably just as much as you, I get so many clients who are just like, I don't have as much energy as I used to. I barely can get out of bed in the morning. I can't function great during the day. So let's dive into that and what that looks like, and some of the symptoms.
Yes, it's almost becoming an epidemic. I think part of it is the climate that we're in, right? We're 2 years almost to the month of a pandemic. And I think people are hitting burnout.
Yeah.
I think people are working longer hours, right? Some of them are working and homeschooling kids. Like there's so many reasons that got us here, but we have to figure out what's dysfunctioning, what's not working in the person's body, that they're still having the fatigue. Yeah. And we've taken it down to so many things. And this is, I think, really what we do is figure out, is it adrenal fatigue? Is it hormonal? Is there an underlying infection like Epstein-Barr virus that the number one symptom is chronic fatigue? And then if that's expressing, well, why is your immune system low? Did you get hit with another infection? And then that infection is expressing, we found it to be brain chemistry imbalances. There's a lot of different reasons. I think the symptom or the diagnosis of chronic fatigue, oh, you're just going to have to live with this, isn't correct. It is a diagnosis. It is a proper ICD-10 code, right? Chronic fatigue. But oftentimes that's where the medical profession stops. Yep, you've got chronic fatigue syndrome. Sorry, that you're going to have to go home and rest more and lower your stress and eat right. Well, what does that mean? And where do I start? And what's causing it, right? That's where they often don't dig deep enough to figure out what's the cause of it and how can I actually take the right steps to rebuild it and get the body functioning again.
Mm-hmm. And something interesting there you mentioned was brain chemistry, right? Balancing brain chemistry. Tell us a little bit about that. That's a really interesting thing that I think a lot of people maybe don't realize.
Yes, I think it's worth noting that is not, I think, common knowledge that most of our brain chemicals, serotonin, dopamine, GABA, are actually made in the gut lining, and they go to the brain. So in functional medicine in this world, we see a lot of gut brain axis, leaky gut, leaky brain. Like, we know that there's a connection there, but I don't think that the general population or a lot of doctors that haven't studied this even realize that the gut health is so important for brain chemistry. So that's one part. We definitely run in a urine test serotonin, dopamine, GABA, epinephrine, norepinephrine, all of these brain chemicals. And we can absolutely see, okay, yeah, this is low, serotonin's low. You're going to have some fatigue and probably even low mood from that. But definitely fatigue, mood swings, carbohydrate cravings, things like that. And then, of course, too many carbohydrates will make us fatigue from pancreas dysfunction and hypoglycemia and diabetes. That's a whole nother route that can happen from low serotonin. But yeah, absolutely. Your brain chemistry balance can absolutely cause fatigue, anxiety, insomnia. So once we figure out what's out of balance, what brain chemicals out of balance, we also have to figure out why. Is it that they went through a trauma and the brain is really suffering and having a hard time recalibrating those brain chemicals? That is absolutely a possibility. Is there an infection in the brain? Are they dealing with an autoimmune issue of the brain? That absolutely is possible. But most of it is, we take it back to the gut. A lot of brain chemical issues, we have to figure out, okay, these brain chemicals are made in the gut lining. The gut's inflamed because somebody may have a parasite or a bacteria, or leaky gut syndrome, meaning they don't have enough good bacteria. We can give all the herbs that maybe, or the amino acids, 5-HTP, things that are precursors to serotonin. But if we don't fix the cause of it, that's no better than giving somebody an antidepressant and saying, this is the fix. Because it's not going to fix it. You'd have to be dependent on that your whole life to feel good, right? And that's not the goal. So yeah, brain chemistry is a big one. Again, the climate that we're in, and even before the last 2 years with COVID, I think the climate that we've been in, go here, in America and in the US, of corporate, owning our own business, kids, school, all of it, we were already hitting burnout. But then definitely add that to it. I feel like we're seeing a lot more fatigue, depression, all of that.
I agree. And so you talked about not, covering up symptoms, that symptomatic relief, and finding the actual problem. And, with chronic fatigue, there can be a lot of things that are causing that, right? And we kind of haven't talked about one of them yet, but COVID, right, can be the root cause of some of that too. Some people have very bad symptoms when it comes to that particular virus.
Yes, we're seeing something now that it is labeled post-COVID long hauler syndrome. Mm-hmm. We're seeing, somebody gets COVID, which is happening to so many people, all of us, right?
Yeah.
And they go through the 10 days, the 2 weeks, they get better COVID wise, as far as they're not in bed with joint pain, fever, etc. But they realize it's been 2 weeks, it's been 3 weeks, it's been 4 weeks. I'm still tired, or I'm still having some brain fog, or, going up a flight of stairs exhausts me. I can't get through my workday. I'm coming home straight to bed. We're seeing that a lot. And I have a couple thoughts, and I'm definitely seeing a lot of patterns. I'm definitely seeing COVID in general stimulate or reactivate Epstein-Barr virus, which the number one symptom of EBV is fatigue. So every single patient we've had come through our door with post-COVID long haul syndrome also had Epstein-Barr virus. What we don't know is what came first, the chicken or the egg, right? Did they have Epstein-Barr virus and that's why they're still having the COVID symptoms? Mm-hmm. Or did their COVID, infection stress their immune system so much, because it's an inflammatory process, it's a stressful disease, that Epstein-Barr virus expressed? That I don't know. We're also seeing these people, a lot of them have a lot of genetic defects, and that's a whole nother issue for chronic fatigue. There's something we look at called the MTHFR gene, which they're not very good detoxers. And we're seeing a lot of correlation. Almost all the long haul patients that we've had also have a genetic defect in their methylation pathway, as well as their mitochondrial pathway. So how well they detox and how well they make energy. And I should also say, just because you have a genetic defect doesn't mean it's going to express. And we know this to be true in the breast cancer gene, right? We all have heard about that. Just because you have the BRCA gene doesn't mean you're going to get breast cancer. That's true with these genes that we look at from a nutrigenomic standpoint. So nutritionally, genetic, what can we change or what can we do in our environment and our food? Just because somebody has the methylation gene where they're a poor detoxer, which can absolutely cause the body to be more toxic, which will cause fatigue, doesn't mean it's always expressing. We think things like having a major infection like COVID can turn that gene on. So we're seeing a lot of that too. So I do think that, why did 5 people in my household get COVID and one person is still having these lingering symptoms? I think a lot of it is underlying infections and other ailments and genetics. So that matters, but it can be debilitating. I've had patients that have had to quit their jobs because since COVID, they just can't function 6 months, 18 months later. And Western medicine isn't really sure what to do with these patients because they're no longer testing positive for COVID. So they're not treating COVID. It's these lingering symptoms, which, believe it or not, is not a new syndrome that we've seen in functional medicine. There's something called post-viral syndrome that we've seen can trigger long-time fatigue and brain fog and all these a whole other cascade of symptoms. So we're just seeing it be real severe with post-COVID.
That's so interesting. And when we talk about, because again, doctors really don't know what to do with this particular group of people and maybe even just chronic fatigue in general, right? It's the diagnosis is there and then it's like, you're on your own, right? Or change this and that. So, I mean, what do you do when your doctor gives up on you or tells you what to do and then sends you out the door with no real instructions? I mean, what do you do at that point?
So I don't know if you know this or not, but that's the name of my book. What to do when your doctor gives up on you.
I love it. How do I not know about this? What is happening right now? Okay, we have to get a copy of that here at the Human Optimization Podcast, and then we can come back on again and talk more about what's in that book.
So it's on Amazon. But yeah, that's funny. So when you said that, I was like, I wonder if she knows that. So we've developed a system and a program, and I can absolutely break it down into the different steps and the different things we look at. Step 1 is absolutely, we call it discover and reveal. Yep. What the heck's going on? We need to run the right tests. We need to find our starting point because is it adrenals? Is it genetic? Is it an infection? Is it autoimmunity? So we've got to figure out what's out of balance, what's causing the fatigue. And I would say from there, we know the starting point, and a good majority of people start with gut health in healing the gut and lowering inflammation and leaky gut syndrome type treatment, because nothing else matters. Even if it's not severe, you're not having GI issues, loose stools, even if you're like, well, and I hear this a lot, I came in for anxiety and fatigue. Why are we working on my gut? Like I don't have Crohn's, I don't have IBS. But they may be eating a SAD diet, right? Standard American diet. So they're eating a lot of processed foods. Their gut is inflamed. And when the gut's inflamed, A, we can't make our brain chemistry properly, our brain chemicals, but B, everything we may try to give you forward, you may not absorb properly. Right. So that's the ground foundational work for most patients. So that's usually step 1. Now, some people come to us and they aren't eating processed foods. They've already done some gut work and we can skip over that, but that's typically step 1. And then we go into things like looking at balancing pH, looking to see if there's any genetic deficiencies we need to address. And eventually we kind of build you up before we break you down. So we do a lot of what deficiencies do you have? What do we need to add to the system? What do we need to heal, lower inflammation? Then we go in and detox. So we're looking at things like liver function, heavy metal toxicity, chemicals, environmental toxins, mold. So then we do any detoxing that we need to do. And through that, we're looking at hormone balancing, brain chemistry, all the things. So the book is a very step-by-step process of what would happen if you came into the clinic, the 8 steps that we would go through.
Amazing. And you know what I love about your first step is that I always hear so many holistic practitioners, holistic doctors, right, talking about, and they're focusing on detox first. Even people in general, they're like, oh my gosh, I need to feel better, I'm just going to do a detox.
Yeah.
It's like, no, you've got to build up the body first so that it's detox is stressful.
You're
right?
absolutely right. If your drainage pathways aren't open and your gut's not working because those toxins from the liver dump into the GI tract, and if the GI tract can't get it out, you've just really ticked off your whole system. You've basically just started this, inflammatory storm, right? Where we've heard the term cytokine storm. That's not specific to COVID. That's something that we've talked about for years and years. A sprained ankle is a cytokine storm, right? The body's trying to heal. The inflammatory process is happening to heal. But yeah, if we're just stirring up toxins and not getting them out, now you're inflamed. Now you feel bad. Now you're puffy. Now you have joint pain. Now you're having loose stools trying to detox, and it's not good. You feel bad. You have headaches, skin breakouts. So you're absolutely right. We have to really build you up before we detox. And I think detoxing has become also a trendy word, right? It's being sold all over in health food stores and juice cleanses, and and those are all great if your body's ready for it. So we need to do some healing first.
Yeah, I agree. I couldn't agree more, just because, again, I feel like it's too quick to go down that path. And if you're already in that inflamed or weakened state, it's only going to cause more issues. And so, when we're talking about fatigue in general, you mentioned a few things, and these are always on my radar. So I want to kind of dive into them a little bit. And I'm assuming you're doing organic acid testing when you're talking about envirotoxins and mycotoxins and all that. Can we talk a little bit about that? Because I think these things are so important in this type of work. And I really think that people need more education and understanding about how much they can affect their health.
Yeah, we could probably do a whole podcast on that. We use a company called Great Plain Labs, which is, I think, the industry standard. Is that who you probably have heard of or used? Yeah. Mm-hmm. So we can look at all kinds of different toxins. I also really like and I've been running it a lot more here in Central Texas specifically, but we also have patients in Seattle and Florida where mold is high, that they have a mycotoxin test to it. But there's so much that we can get from the organic acid test. We can find out brain chemistry. And I like to kind of start there sometimes, because then it leads me into, okay, now we need to do a mold test. We can find, okay, there's these markers here make me think that there's definitely an environmental toxin. We need to run the mycotoxin test. Or these markers here tell me this person probably has low dopamine. I need to run a brain chemistry test. So it's a good starting point. And it's a urine test. It's a good starting point for a lot of different you can branch out to other perspective or possible ailments to really finding the core root cause. But in it itself, we definitely can get a lot of starting points from that too. Like, we're going to see a liver issue, the gut's not working, the brain's not converting amino acids in the brain chemistry, and all that's in there. And you're right. I wish that test in that lab was something that was more mainstream and people know about, because they could be living in a moldy, toxic environment and have no idea. And it's giving them headaches, migraines, GI issues, moodiness, inflammation, weight gain, because their body's so inflamed, their detox pathways are stuck and they have no idea. And Western medicine's not checking that on a daily.
No, definitely not. And yeah, Great Plains is, that's exactly the test that I use. Every year I get excited for their conference because it gives you so much amazing information. And, we're facing more environmental toxins now too, right?
Yes.
Our herbicides, pesticides, our foods, all these things. And our body has to deal with all of that on top of the stress that we're under, which is going to cause a whole host of issues too.
Here's something I hadn't really thought about. So here in Austin, I go and see a holistic vet, and we've become friends. Our dogs have seen them for 12 years, and they do acupuncture and chiropractic and herbs. And she was telling me that there is an epidemic of tumors that dogs are having on their lower legs. And she believes, and she did some research and looked into this a little deeper, it's from getting yard sprayed. And the dogs are walking out and their lower legs are getting cancer from going out. Specifically, she said, in gated communities, or communities that you live on a golf course where they're spraying a lot, right? Yeah. Like you don't want mosquitoes in those areas, and the lawn looks perfect. So if they can cause tumors on dogs' legs, and like dogs are having to get part of their legs removed just from them walking in the grass, We're
Wow.
eating some of this food, we're breathing this, we're walking around barefoot, which you should do. There's lots of benefits for that. But in the chemicals is where it's a problem. And our systems aren't designed to live, I really think, in the environment that we as humans have created. We've created such a toxic environment that we can't really survive in it anymore. And we've created it, right?
Yeah.
And now we're complaining about it. And we're in this feedback loop of having to spend the money to fix it. And we've created it. I mean, so you're absolutely right. So looking at those things in a test there's no other way to know if you have those. They also Great Plains does a non-metal environmental toxins. And I've had a couple of patients have really bizarre neurological issues and problems. One grew up on a farm.
Yeah.
So we ran that test, all kinds of pesticides and things that you find in Roundup. One was a hairdresser and for 25 years in all different. And she said, oh yeah, I've been in old buildings that had no ventilation. I know I was breathing this stuff in, like, who knows what I've been exposed to. And she was having, her nervous system was she was diagnosed with fibromyalgia. And she said, well, okay, what's causing my nervous system to be inflamed and have pain all the time? It's got to be something. And that's how she found us.
Wow, that's incredible. And it's funny too, because, well, not funny, that's not quite the right word. But people don't realize that what could be affecting them today could have been something they were exposed to a long time ago. Right.
Yes.
And it's just, and the body has not had a chance to deal with it, or then it gets overloaded. Right. And all of a sudden they start to express symptoms at that point, or they start coming about.
We call them the buckets. Like, your toxin bucket can only take so much before it overloads, overfloods, really overflows into the system, and the whole system's, affected. And you're absolutely right. The person that grew up on the farm didn't have symptoms until later in life, when she was probably exposed to the other environment. And, we can't escape these environmental toxins. We can be sitting on the highway breathing in exhaust.
Yeah.
It's the matter of making sure your system can handle them and detox them properly, because we can't get rid of them. I mean, I'm originally from Flint, Michigan. Talk about, a toxin, lead in the water, right? Like, those people had no idea of their exposure.
Yeah.
And some people got really, really sick. Other people were able to detox it a little better, and it wasn't fatal, and all of these things. So it's a matter of knowing your toxic load and how to kind of, we change our oil filter every 3 to 5, sometimes 10,000 miles now, depending on your car. Right.
Yeah.
I like to say our liver is like our oil filter. It needs to be cleaned out sometimes and rinsed to reset.
Yeah, exactly. And I think people are becoming a little bit more aware of that now, but I think it's something that still doesn't happen enough, right? They don't think about that. And so going back to, I want to kind of touch on, just with regards to chronic fatigue symptoms. I mean, other than just tiredness, I feel like there's a lot more that goes with that people can maybe bring to the surface and go, maybe that's something that is affecting me. And I just thought, I didn't really realize it.
Yes. So I like to say, if it's affecting your daily activities, if you're not able to be the person you want to be, accomplish the tasks, that's when we should start looking for help. There's a big difference of, okay, I just stayed up too late last night and watched Netflix. If I get back on my routine, I'll be okay. I'm just tired for a day or two, or, I've got a big project going on. That's a big difference versus every day you're fighting and struggling to get out of bed, or every day you're fighting and struggling to make it to 4 or 5 p.m. And it's affecting your work, your home, your ability to be a good mom or a good partner, or, a good employee or employer. That's when we need to take a step back and say, okay, this isn't just mom tired.
Yeah.
Right. That's a big term that we've kind of started to accept here. And there's actually something wrong. Or if somebody really is to the point where it's physical, like they're physically fatigued, which we see a lot in Epstein-Barr virus and Lyme disease and things like that. It takes a lot of energy to lift my head, my limbs. Like, I'm physically, my muscles they hurt at the end of the day. So fatigue and pain is another big red flag that something's wrong. And also I take very seriously when a patient tells me something's wrong, I'm not myself, this isn't who I am. And for a practitioner to take the time for the patient to say that, to get to the point where they discover that and say that, sometimes takes longer than a 7-minute appointment that we're used to. Right. So we have to dig that deep. And I trust that they're in their body. They know this isn't just, I had a long weekend. This is something physiological, chemical in my body.
Yeah. Well, and I think a lot of people have gotten used to the, oh, you're just getting older, or, oh, it'll pass, or it's just stress. And I mean, we all have stress. So with regards to, I mean, let's put this in perspective. A lot of us have stressful lives, right? Could be business owners, again, moms, dads, whatever the case may be, right? We're busy. And we can't manage necessarily that stress, right? I mean, to a point where we can't change the stress that's in front of us at the time. Mm-hmm. What's your kind of top 3 things to put in place that helps someone be able to be a little more stress resilient when they can't change the stress load that they're actually under?
That's a great question. And I often refer to, I don't think the definition of health is never having stress and feeling 100% and never being tired, because that's just not realistic. Like you just explained, like we have lives. I think the actual definition of health or healthy is your ability to adapt, right? We're going through the stressful thing and I can still sleep tonight. We're going through the stressful thing and I was able to still get up and do a workout, right? I'm dealing with the stress and I'm able to come back to homeostasis. So I think that's really kind of sidebar, the definition of health and wellness. Like, yes, we're going to go through life, but how quickly can our body get back to what it needs to get to make all of our brain chemistry and hormones properly and digestive tract working functionally and properly. Mm-hmm. So that's definitely one thing. The 3 things I think that define health and what you can do in a stressful situation to just not completely spiral down to a place of, bedridden or can't function is sleeping, pooping, and hydration. Those are my big 3 that I probably say 10 times a week. Yes, sleep sometimes gets disrupted, but if we're not sleeping 6 hours uninterrupted at night, our cells don't rejuvenate, our bodies don't heal. So it doesn't matter what you're going through, you're going to crash if you can't get 6 hours of uninterrupted sleep. So protecting, guarding your sleep, whatever you have to do, if you have to look at something like melatonin because you're in a stressful state, sleeping is imperative for brain function, for hormone production, for weight, for every digestion. That's when the body really starts to, absorb the nutrients, and we have to sleep. And then going to the bathroom. If somebody, now again, the ability to adapt, right? You have a big presentation, you might have a little bit of loose stools that morning, or, you're traveling, you may not go to the bathroom till you're in a calm place, right? We say when you're in fight or flight, you can't rest and digest. But if you're having weeks on end of digestion disruption, trust and believe you're not making your brain chemistry and hormones properly because your gut lining's so inflamed. So you're going to hit burnout. So bringing yourself back from a place of fatigue is definitely, digestion is a big part of that, because also you may not be absorbing your nutrients to make your ATP and energy if your digestion isn't in place. Yeah. And then hydration, so simple, but so complicated, right? Half of our body weight in water. That in hydration, water, there's 2 parts to this. Water does do some hydration, but really water is more of a detox and flush. It does more of that than it does hydration. Minerals and things like sea salt in your water and even electrolyte drinks is really what hydrates you when you're dehydrated better, quicker. But water is so important for dehydration and just detoxification for that. So those would be my top 3 in times of stress. If I could add one more thing, I would say adrenal support. Yes, for your adrenal glands. Mm-hmm. I think they're the most overworked and underpaid glands in our body. They pump 100%. Out adrenaline and cortisol and DHEA and all these things that some of us are pumping that from 9 to 5. And then we get home from the kids and we're pumping it till 11 or 12, pumping adrenaline. So whether that's adaptogenic herbs to kind of rebalance them, or I like to use protomorphogens, which are extracts of animals to rebuild them. Whatever it is, if there was one supplement I think every American should be on, it would be a close tie between adrenal support, maybe every person, right? Unless you're just retired and living on an island somewhere, but, or very low stress situation. So I definitely think adrenal support and probably vitamin D would be a tie.
Okay. Yes. Well, and you're right. The adrenals, I would say it's the gas tank of the car, right?
Ooh, that's a good one.
Well, a good friend of mine who is a thyroid specialist said that to me once. And she's like, Lisa, don't forget, adrenals are the gas tank. Thyroid is the gas pedal. Because we were talking about thyroid. She's like, if you step too hard on the gas pedal and the tank's empty, you're not going to feel any better. And I was like, oh, I'm going to remember that forever.
And you're going to burn out even faster.
Exactly.
Kind of thing. Yeah, totally.
Exactly.
Oh, that's a great analogy. And I love that she's a thyroid specialist who also recognizes the adrenals. Like, kudos to her, because that's, I think, a big miss I was mentioning earlier is somebody's got chronic fatigue. They run the thyroid's low. They just push thyroid meds, which isn't the worst thing. You do feel better for a while. And then 6 months later, your numbers are low again. You need more. A year later, you need more. And that you just get stuck in this feedback loop because you're not actually addressing, like you said, the gas tank.
Exactly.
Yeah, the adrenals.
I think that's such a huge part that's missing. But I do agree. Adrenals, I mean, again, that's our first response to stress. And we forget about that, right? And we can't deny in this day and age and moving forward, let's be honest, the future is not going to get any easier. It's just going to be different, right? It's not necessarily going to get easy for us. It's just going to be different. So I think that I think that is a great analogy. And with regards to sleep, hydration, all of those things, so important. And I think a lot of people are running around that are dehydrated, right? And that's where some of these things are coming from. And poop. You know, we don't talk about this enough. And I do want to say, like, I have clients who will say, well, you know what, maybe every other day or sometimes it's like once every, and I'm like, oh my gosh, because if you're trying to detox anything or be healthy, all of those toxins end up just sitting in your colon, right?
100%.
You have to move those out. And so for anybody listening that think that's normal, it is not. You have to go at least once a day and make sure that, you know, if not more than that. That's so important.
The analogy I love to use, and as soon as I say this, people's eyes are like, oh, whatever you had for dinner last night. What did I have for dinner last night? I had a salad, a hamburger patty, and an orange. So put that was like my dessert. Put that on your counter, hike the heat up in your house to 98.6 degrees. Let it sit for 24 hours. Let it sit for 36 hours. Let it sit for 48 hours. What's going to happen to that? It's going to rot. It's going to smell. It's going to start fermenting, right?
Yep.
That's what's happening in our gut when we're not having a bowel movement in a perfect world after every large meal, right? Yep. I'm good with once a day. I agree with you. If you can go once a day, and it's normal.
A good poop. Yeah. A good poop, solid poop once a day. Yeah.
The Bristol stool chart. I think that should be in everybody's bathroom, where it's showing it's 7 different pictures of stool. And my children patients, our pediatric patients love it. They love to chart my poop looks like this. It's like 1 and 2 are little tiny, we call them like deer pellets, or they're small and skinny. That's constipation.
Yeah.
And then like 3 and 4 is perfect, soft and shaped and formed like a banana. That tells me you're getting the toxins out and you're absorbing the good stuff. And then it's loose from there. I've heard everything from, you know, soft serve ice cream to complete, you know, cow patty, like, because there's a kid's version that has these funny names on them.
Oh, that's
but I really think I have a 6-year-old, and by the time she was 2, she would come and tell me she was potty trained, and she would come and say, Mommy, it was a number 3 on the chart.
That's fantastic.
I think everybody in America should have that in their bathroom. I want to hang it in my treatment room, and my team's kind of like, let's not scare the new patients. So I have it like tucked under my shelf I can pull out real quick. But if somebody doesn't know the Bristol stool chart, I think that's a great place to start if they're having fatigue, if they're having brain chemistry issues, if they're having skin breakouts, if they're having digestion, obviously gas, bloating, all of it.
Yeah.
If you're not a 3 or a 4 on that chart, you need to do something to help your gut to heal.
Yeah. I couldn't agree more. Wow. Well, that was great. And again, we never talk enough about poop, and it is so important. People
everybody does it. Everybody does it. Not where I thought this podcast was going to go, but I love it.
Here we
are. I love the talk. We joke in our clinic, we get very excited when people have their period properly and they poop. So periods and poops, we're like, woo, we need to have a bell or something. We don't, but that would just be more weird.
Exactly. Oh, well, that was fantastic. So much great information. And you know what? It comes down to, again, digging into that root cause, knowing that there's more that you can do, understanding that it's not just erasing symptoms, because it's not going to solve the problem, right? And that's what we really have to start thinking about. So thanks so much for your time today. That was absolutely wonderful. I enjoyed our chat so much. And we'll have the link to Dr. Ward's book in our description, available on Amazon. And
thank you.
Yes, absolutely. And so if you're watching on YouTube, make sure you subscribe to my channel. There's a brand new episode every 2 weeks. Give this episode a thumbs up. And if you're listening on your favorite podcast host, give this episode a like, and we'll see you next time. Thanks for listening to today's show. Head over to Pitel-Killah.com to gain access to some amazing free resources that will help you gain energy, erase debilitating symptoms, and be the best version of you. Remember to give this podcast a like and follow me on social media at Pitel-Killah. I'm here every 2 weeks with a brand new episode of the Human Optimization Podcast. Until next time.